how does it look like? So it looks like this one. So in reality, there is always an overlap. There is some extra area you can see here, which is an overlap area. Which is reducing your effective channel length. Earlier it was you wanted to have the channel length of L, but now it becomes L prime. It's a reduced one, or sometimes it's increased also. It depends how people wants to make it, but generally it's reduced. Okay. So this is one more example of the CMOS technology where we have studied that you're going to have such kind of structure in the CMOS technology. So this is body, and this is body of PMOS. So this is body of PMOS, and this is body of NMOS. So here you can see that there is, looking from here to here, there are various wells are available. So this is N well, and this is P substrate. So effectively there is only one well is there, but there is a possibility that you can make dual well technology where there is, okay, maybe if I draw it, it will give you better understanding. So you might have this kind of structure of CMOS where there are two different wells can be seen here, P well and N well. And same thing is drawn here in this diagram where this is P plus inside this, two different transistors are there. One is creating PMOS and one is creating NMOS. So this is called dual well technology where there are two different wells are there. So such things maybe like we will use it in future, but right now it's not needed. It's a technology specific. All technologies are not dual well. There are certain technologies which are dual well, and that is already known to you at the beginning. And if you want to know that whether it's dual well or which kind of technology, you need to read something called DRM of the technology. DRM of a technology. DRM is known as Design Rule Manual. So if you want to design anything with that particular technology, you need to follow that design rule manual. So it will tell you everything about that, how much spacing, how much, like all the informations. Maybe those things I'm going to talk today, what informations will be available in a design rule manual. Just for completeness and keeping here, this is a silicon rod after different processes and kept in a particular location, like in 3-dimension, maybe like you can keep that at 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. So there are certain coordinate positions where you keep it and you create a silicon which is actually very, very big in a row. And thereafter you make the cuts, and each one of them is actually look like this one, and each one of them is known as the wafer. This diameter of such kind of silicon wafer is actually 6-inch and 8-inch. There are many others also, and this is not kind of standard, but this we are following, and like till date we are following like this. So maybe like it can change also, but This is what people are using. And through this one only, like on this wafer is very expensive, by the way, just for your information. If you want to purchase one wafer, just so for you people, I'll tell you that you should visit this website. Europractice-ic.com. So if you go here, it's actually consortium of, you can say that there is one laboratory called IMAC. By the way, this is in Belgium, Leuven. I made mistake. How? Belgium, E or I? I, right? Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, so it's in Leuven, Belgium, where IMAC. Then there is one university called KU Leuven. It's called Catholic University Leuven. So KU Leuven. Then Ghent University. So all these are merged together, and they thought that, look, if I want a wafer and if I want to purchase it, it's going in like lots of money one has to pay. Like let's assume that Intel wants to make this one, and it is taking this whole wafer, which looks like this one. So in this wafer, you may have many ICs are there. So each square box is actually one IC or one design. All other boxes may be identical to the same, or maybe all are different. If whatever it is, but what this particular Europractice says, if I am a company and if I want to do this one, it's so much of money will be there. So what Europractice has thought of that, let's have some consortium, let's make it just for the university program. And what they are offering, they are having some run schedule, and they are saying that, look, on this particular wafer, on so and so date, let's say November 2 is one of the date for XFAB technology, XFAB 180 nanometer technology. What they are saying, on this date, you can have 20 such kind of square box, which are, out of which 10 will be packaged and 10 will be unpackaged. By the way, packaged and unpackaged are as follows. Like packaged means, you must have seen such kind of thing. Such kind of package is known as dual inline package. This is called DIP, dual inline package. So outside it looks like this one, but inside it's just like this. And thereafter it's connected through the bonding wires. If you remember, yesterday I told you there are some IOs, ESD pads, and inside that there is a core, right? So unpackaged means just this core without any bonding and other things, because it requires lots of expertise. Packaging is a different thing, and they are sending to different people to do all these things. But what they are saying, if you are taking such 20, around 1.5 by 1.5 mm square, area is fixed, by the way. So one block is for 1.5 by 1.5 mm square. If you want to take it for XFAB 180 nanometer technology, it's around 5,000 euro, because they are in Europe. So they're following this, plus some taxes and all these things. So it will be around like 5,200 euro or something like that. So that is what they have started, this Europractice. Under the university program, you are not supposed to buy the whole wafer. Now you can understand, if I am buying the whole wafer, it's very expensive. On such wafer, there are almost like you can say that around 2,000, or we can say that around approximately 300 to 400 such 1.5 by 1.5 mm square area things can be accommodated. And in that case, it's very expensive. Look, and this is not the rate at which the companies are being asked to pay. They are being asked to pay lots of money for the entire wafer because they are taking an entire thing in bulk. So that's how like this thing become very expensive. And if you want to prove something on VLSI design or IC technology, what you need to do, you need to fabricate this chip, or you need to give this chip to someone who can fabricate it. In entire world, there are very few people who are actually fabricating the chip. You can say that you know about the Silicon Valley, right? Where there are various labs are there, Qualcomm, Intel, all these people have their own their or on foundry. There might be like one more is there in Europe, it's ST Microelectronics. One is also in Europe, it's called Austria Microsystem. Then uh, maybe another is L Foundry. Then in Israel, I'm emphasizing on this Israel because there is something is there. Israel has Tower ZES. Actually, earlier it was just Tower, and ZES was in Brazil. Now it has been actually taken over by Tower, and now it's known as Tower ZES Semiconductor. I'm talking about this because they have helped us to set up our laboratory in India in SCL. So we have semiconductor laboratory Mohali, where we have just 180 nanometer technology. So this 180 nanometer technology actually provided by Israel Tower ZES. It's not exactly our technology. So their scientists or engineers are sitting here and they are helping us to design whatever we want for. By the way, SCL is a laboratory of ISRO. So most of the things they are designing for ISRO, or their primary customer is ISRO, where they are making the chips for space technology. Where, look at this, space technology is the one where the temperature may not be the uniform 27 degree, and lots of other things will be there. So when your chip is on the spacecraft or anything in the Earth orbit or moving to Mars mission, these things are not uniform, and in that case this particular chip needs to be designed such a way that it's resilient to the radiation coming in the atmosphere. So you have to make the such kind of circuit known as radiation hardened. So we are making that, and this is going for ISRO. So this is also the basic mission of SCL, that we have to make radiation hard circuits. So SCL is also helping us, but it's actually very expensive. But whenever there is some run schedule for them, we can also send our design. We can talk to them if they have some available area. We can send them, and like for that we need to take a prior permission. But as IIT Mandi is part of one project called SMDP-C2SD, which is Special Manpower Development Project, Chip to System Design, where we have tie-up with SCL that we can design our chip. So we almost made something like 3 to 4 different designs with SCL under this project. By the way, this project is funded by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MIT India. Okay, so generally we send our design to here, or we send our design to here. So like generally you'll find like in IIT Mandi, like either me or Dr. Rahul Shrestha are sending our designs to various places. So we have design from here, and we till now we have chosen to use 130 nanometer. However, the current technology is as small as 7 nanometer or 14 nanometer, you can say. So this is a look, as you are decreasing this number, this is XFAB 180, that's why it's 5,000 euro. If you go to 28 nanometer, it will be almost like 30,000 euro or something like more than that. So as you are decreasing this number, So that's this number is actually increasing exponentially. So 7 and 14 nanometer will be like very expensive, and all these things are just CMOS technology where there is silicon is used as substrate. But if you use something else like gallium nitride and FDSOI and one thing called FinFET. So this is gallium nitride. This is fully depleted silicon on insulator, and this is FinFET. So there are fingers are there. I'll talk about this, but this is the like latest technology from Intel. This is the latest technology from ST and IBM. And this is actually for, you can say, that automobile industry. This is being used. So for some of the places, like I heard that Infineon is using gallium nitride, and moreover, DRDO government of India is also using such technology because it's robust. It can work at high temperature also. It can, like, as per my knowledge, it's still 300 degrees centigrade. It works. So you can use it in many other places like the car, or maybe you can take the input where the temperature is very high. So all these technologies have much higher value than what is costed over here. So generally in university, people don't pay this, or but they generally tie with these companies so that if they are doing some research, then university can help them, and they can design something. So that is how it goes, right? So generally Europe is tied up with ST, and they generally provide what they want. Okay, so now let's come back to our original thing. If you want to have the transistor and you want to simulate the schematic, now you should understand that there are two kinds of different way of symbolizing transistors. One is schematic and one is layout. So in schematic, it looks like this one, but in reality, it looks like this one. But this symbol takes much time, so we don't draw that, right? This layout takes more time. So we generally follow the schematic. First, we are going to make sure that schematic should work. So all the information which I am giving, most of my previous students must be knowing, but this is a repetition for the new students, specifically for MTech CSP and MTech CSP and MTech VLSI. So various analysis are available. Not only, like, you must be knowing about the DC analysis. After drawing the schematic, first thing one should do is the DC analysis and make sure that the transistor is in available mode of operation. It might be saturation, it might be linear. So it depends. In our case, like if you are in analog circuit design, then you are preferably want this transistor is in saturation. But if you are in digital, this is not the case because you are not working with the small signal, you are working with the large signal analysis, because your input is going from 0 to VDD, which is large enough that like your output is either 0 or VDD. So it's a large signal analysis. But still, you need to find out the need to do the DC analysis for certain reason. That reasons we are going to talk when we are going to design an inverter. Next thing is the transient analysis. By the way, DC is also known as bias or common mode. Okay, so any one of the name you can tell, and all are synonyms to each other. However, in each of the tool, it's known as DC analysis. The next one is the transient analysis. Transient is the one where y-axis might be the amplitude and x-axis is always time. If you are doing amplitude with respect to time, then it's the transient analysis, and it's generally always sampled. Understand that when you are running the simulation, it's sampled one, because every simulator work at particular time. this time might be uniform, this time might not be uniform. If you want to make it uniform, you need to use something called strobe. You need to do the strobing at the particular time so that you can see the output exactly at the same time. However, in reality, it's not the fact. If you don't use the strobe function, then what is going to happen if this is the output? Then wherever there is more fluctuation, like here you can see, as you are going top, more samples will be there, and when it's getting stable, actually the samples are less. What I mean to say that this timing is not uniform if you don't take strobe, and if you don't take strobing function, maybe you will end up in sometimes wrong answer. But most of the time in digital, you might be get the correct answer. But for analog, you have to do the strobing for some reason. So this is the transient. But if you are interested in not in x-axis as time, but if you are interested in frequency, so the x-axis is in frequency, and y-axis might be any amplitude. It might be in dB, it might be in dBm. I believe people know about these notations, right? Or maybe dBV also. Anything is you want to do, or dBA also. All these things are going to be possible here when you want to do the AC analysis with respect to frequency. Look at that. So these are few popular one, but other than that, what is exactly happening is when you are running this simulation, you must have experience. Let's assume that you have an oscilloscope. On the oscilloscope screen, I'm seeing this one. Let's assume that I'm seeing this sine wave like this. But look at that. This point and this point are not exactly matching. So what will happen when you see the next time? This is going to start from here actually, because it was ended there. Again, like the next one, and so on. So on the screen, you will see that your sine wave is actually moving here and there. It's happening because wherever it stops, it will start from here. So this thing is to start such a way that it's exactly on top of each other. So then it's not moving and it looks like a stationary image. So this is the important thing. But what generally we are doing for such kind of thing, we are using the function of trigger in an oscilloscope. We are talking about oscilloscope in reality. Okay, so if you do the use the trigger function, you can match this and you can make this image stationary, and things will be pretty fine for you. So similar to that, in simulations, we have some technique. Let's assume that you have made your simulation still here only. At this point, it might be, let's say, 1 microsecond. You are doing the transient analysis, but doing, look, this output depends on what initial condition has been taken. It's all about initial condition. When we start the simulation of any circuit, all the nodes, like let's assume that this is a circuit, or let's make it actually little bit complicated with switch capacitor. Here I'm applying sine wave. Here I'm checking the output. So this is going to the oscilloscope. I'm checking that. This is switch one. So if I'm applying here sine wave at the output, look, this is the node. I don't know the value, first of all. This is also the node. I don't know the value. all these values, will it be considered 0? If yes, then the output is different. And if you consider that capacitor was already charged with some value, it's a different thing. So it's all about the what initial condition you are taking in your simulations. So if you are taking some initial condition, then things are different. Let's assume that you completed your simulation here at 1 microsecond. Now you want to start same simulation from 1 microsecond. You need to give the condition which is available at the end of this point to this circuit so that you can start. But otherwise, if you don't do that, then the answer will be different. So this is very, very important that how you are giving this answer. On top of that, it might be happening that with different conditions and different things, when you are doing, the output may be different with all different conditions. So there is something called periodic analysis, or you can say that periodic steady state. So this particular simulation will be run till the time when the simulation will not see the stationary image. Means it will run first simulation, then second simulation, third simulation, and it looks at different harmonics. When all the harmonics, generally I prefer to give for the 50 harmonics to be matched. So I'm just checking whether it's matching or not. Once it matched, my simulation will get stopped. And that analysis is known as PSS, periodic steady state. This is generally for transient. Okay. Similar to that, there is something called PAC, periodic AC analysis. Other than these analysis, there are many other analysis like S parameter analysis, where x-axis is with different parameter S11, S12, S21, S22. You must have studied this in two-port network. So that parameters will be useful. Other than that, XF analysis, which is transfer function analysis. Okay. So many more analysis are there, even in RF analysis. RF is for radio frequency analysis. So generally, we don't work in RF. But if you are working in RF analog IC design, which is much advanced version of normal analog circuit designing, or the CMOS analog IC design which you are studying. So in that case, you need to use RF analysis, where actually you need to use S parameter, some antenna parameters, all these things will be used. So all these things you need to do just to make sure that whether it's matching your design parameters or not, or the specifications or not. But the challenging part is, look, when you are making this IC, let's assume that this is an IC which you made. This IC I made one, but I need almost like 100,000 such ICs, which has to be identical. The performance has to be identical. So who will give this guarantee? It's not possible, right? So sometimes it happens that you wanted to make this thing. Note that what we are talking, everything in terms of, let's say, for the latest technology, 7 nanometer. Means the technology, when we are saying that technology node is 7 nanometer, means we are referring to the channel length only, not the width, channel length. So channel length is, I wanted to have the 7 nanometer, but as you know that 7 nanometer is not possible. It will be something lesser than 7 nanometer. And definitely you have some delta L or some overlap area which is creating the channel length modulation. So when you're making this, sometimes you can achieve 6 nanometer, sometimes you can achieve 5.9 nanometer, sometimes 5.8, and so and so. So I would refer this one as process variation. And note that this process variations are different for different things. Like you have made the NMOS transistor, so process will act differently to that particular IC. PMOS, it's different. Resistors, it's different. Capacitors, it's different. even inductors as well, right? So all will vary with different foundry and different process. So I will say that my circuit still should work. Look, I'm using maybe different mobile phones, and there are 100,000 different mobile phones, but still all are working fine, right? Because they have been checked. Maybe when they made it, they made something like, I'm just giving this number. There is no, I'm not sure about this number, but let's say I was making 120,000 mobile phones, out of which 100,000 phones are working very well as per my specifications. My specifications might be, the propagation delay, jitter, setup time, hold time, all the things together. And it's working fine, only 100,000. And 20,000 are not good. So I would say that those 100,000, I'm going to refer them as one word called yield. So I'm going to say that, okay, yield is good or bad. Out of 120,000, if only 20,000 is working, then I'll say yield is very bad of my technology because process is not matching. And so this is the first part. Let's keep this aside. This process might have actually 5 possibilities actually. One is typical, means everything is fine, no problem. Second one is slow. Slow means my NMOS, let's assume that NMOS started acting as a slow. Slow means its threshold voltage is too high. Okay, VT is very high when it's slow. When it's fast, VT is pretty low. And sometimes the combination of NMOS and PMOS, like slow, fast, and fast, slow. So this is what I made it for only NMOS and PMOS. But if you look at resistor, capacitor, inductor, all will have 5 corners each. Sorry, 3 corners each, because typical slow fast, typical slow fast. So 3 are from here, 3 for him, 3 for here, and 5 for from here. You can understand this makes the combination of something like 5 3s are 15, 45, 45 3s are how much? 5 and 125, right? Sorry, 135. Right? So 135 different corners I need to check by making my device slow, fast, and all these things. So internally, if you are going to use Mica or Cadence, it will make sure that it will make slow, fast, fast, slow, and slow, fast devices as per happening in really in your design. So that has been checked and that has been given by the particular foundry, and that's how this tool becomes very expensive because it gives all the different data. It's a real data coming from the transistor. It's already known to them, right? So this was the first part, that process. But other than that, you must have experienced that you have a mobile phone which is a battery operated. The battery is inside, but I'm keeping aside. So battery is around 3.3 volt battery. So this 3.3 volt battery, it's a DC, which is running my whole mobile. When I'm fully charged and I'm checking, battery might be more than 3.3 volt. And if it is about to get discharged and it's in a low power mode, might be much lower than 3.3 volt. It might be like 2.4, 2.3 volt. I'm just giving you the numbers under which it's running. And when it's greater than 3.3 volt, it's going more than 3.7, 3.8 volt. So in such cases, just assume if you wanted to design this circuit, just giving you an example. This is analog example, but this is VDD and this is ground. So you are expecting that this is 3.3 volt. Let's assume that. But instead of 3.3 volt, if it is 3.7 volt or 2.4 volt, how the things will work? Output will vary. right? And you will see the drastic change. So with respect to VDD, it's changing. So that's not a good thing. But still we need to make sure that my mobile or maybe my system, not only mobile, any system should work for any value of voltage or in the given. Generally, as per the technology and all, we don't make this battery and all that way. We are using something else known as band gap reference, which has actually VDD plus 10% and VDD minus 10% of variation. And here it's a typical of VDD. So now you can see 120, 135 already corners were there, multiplied by 3 more. Right? So you already reached here. Right? So almost like we reached different simulations, 405. Now you can understand what design engineer is doing most of the time in industry. He is running lots of simulation, and any one of the simulation, if the things does not work, he has to fix it. He has to go back and he has to fix whether my circuit will work or not. So this was voltage, but the most important part, as I told you, like in space technology, the temperature is not actually plus 27 degree. If you remember, V equal to IR, that's the half statement of Ohm, but the full statement says that V equal to IR at 27 degree or at room temperature. But if you are not at room temperature, this will have lots of second order polynomials of resistances, which is going to create a problem for you. So in that case, let's assume that you are in, let's say in Delhi, where in winter, the temperature goes as low as 0 degree, and in summer, the temperature goes as high as 45 degree. Same electronic device you have, but still this is working, right? Or you are in New York or some places where the temperature sometimes go below 0 degree, and even in plus also. If you are in Finland, you are working always less than 0 degree, will never reach to room temperature, right? If you are outside, I'm saying, at room, definitely there will be some room heater or something, so that your temperature is 27 degree. But what I mean to say, those instruments, like one of them is mobile, which is going to be used outside uh, outside your room, and the temperature is not actually 27 degree, you need to check from minus 40 degree centigrade to plus 125 degree centigrade, because this is also the operating range of, you can say, silicon. If you go beyond this, like beyond this one, it will be melted, and below this also it's not going to work. So generally, this is the range for every consumer electronics, and every electronics has been tested from minus 40 degree to plus 125 degree, or maybe some subset of this particular range. Some are doing from 0 degree centigrade to 80 degree centigrade. Depends on their application. What will be their particular application? If they are going to be in your room only, then the temperature will be different. If you are in some places, or let's say if you are going to keep your sensor or your circuit in boiler, or the hazardous situation, the temperature will be different. So in all cases, my circuit should work, but I am going to call this one as temperature. So now onwards, I am not going to use word called my circuit should be robust enough, but I am going to say that my circuit should be working at PVT, where P stands for process, V for voltage, and T for temperature. So across various PVT, I'm going to call each one of the process voltage and temperature point as corner. Means one process is slow, let's say. One voltage is VDD plus 10%, and temperature, let's say, minus 40 degree. So you will have such kind of many corners. Generally in industry, when people are running, they are running almost like 1225 corners, where each corner will be defined with value of process, voltage, and temperature. So your circuit has to work at everything. If it does not work, then that circuit is not useful. So you have to make sure that your circuit should be robust enough for cross corner PVT. So this is what I wanted to explain. Unfortunately, it's not given in any book, so please follow my lecture. It's not given in any book, but this is the analysis we are going to do in Simica. I don't know whether Simica has PVT analysis or not, but if it is there, we are going to use that. Generally, we are writing following things like TT, SS, FF, SNFP, and FNSP for the process. So TT is typical, and first one is referring to NMOS and second one referring to PMOS. So that's how you can do this analysis. With the time, you will learn it, but these analysis should be known to you. That's why we are starting with that. Now, the next thing is, look, this is very important thing that I don't know whether you have heard the word called 6 sigma, 3 sigma or not, but you must have studied probability, where you must have studied 6 sigma or sigma, right? This is same sigma I'm talking about. So what generally we are doing, if we are a company like GE, so General Electrical, they are saying that all our products are 6 sigma. What does it mean? It means that when they have, let's say, wanted to achieve some specification of their particular thing, let's say they were designing some kind of memory like SRAM with specifications of 1 MB RAM and all the retention time and all these things, they're keeping at one side, and they're checking for different devices, whatever they made. Because of world is Gaussian, like you can see such kind of Gaussian curve, and you know that this is mean value, right? This is going to give me sigma. I know what is the value of sigma, which is by the standard deviation. This is 3 sigma, it's multiplied by 3, and almost like here you will see something like 6 sigma. So what does it mean when you are saying 6 sigma, sigma, or 3 sigma? It says that if I am saying that my product is passing the sigma, means I was claiming this value at the base case. My some of the devices are working at this base value. You will be lucky if you will get that mobile. But if you are not getting, at least you will get this one, because majority are here. Or on the other hand, if it is 3 sigma, it's here. And if it's 6 sigma, it says that none of the product is failing or giving the poor value than what has been actually quoted. So GE, Intel, many companies are there. They are saying very proudly that our product is 6 sigma. So that's why we have to do some analysis called Monte Carlo, or it's a statistical analysis in which when you are going to run that, generally what we are doing, we are choosing the worst case corner out of this 125. On top of that, we are running the Monte Carlo so that output will look like this one. And then you have to say that what is happening. Generally for Monte Carlo in industry, we are following 10,000 runs. By the way, so y-axis is generally number of runs or number of occurrences, and x-axis is the specification. I made a mistake there. So it has to be like specification or the value over here. So as we are in academics, but still we have to make sure that we have to make our things matching the 6 sigma. Okay. If it is matching 6 sigma on schematic, definitely it will work on layout, and definitely it will work when the real chip will come. So it's very important to use all these things. Okay. So it's almost like today it's mostly I talked about everything. Maybe tomorrow we are going to talk about the layout technique also, that what exactly we are doing. But before going to like the tomorrow's lecture, we can talk about very popular thing which we are, some of the people must be knowing, Moore's law. So Moore's law has two two things which he has told, that every 1.5 years, every 1.5 years, the number of transistors which is available or which can be accommodated in a given area of IC will be doubled. In same area, next 1.5 years, it will become double. After 3 years, it will become multiplied by 4 and so on. But this is going to happen only when you have to reduce the technology node or the transistor size. So transistor size, or we are calling it technology node. When we are saying technology node, it's equivalent of the channel length, which we already seen it. That has to be reduced by 0.7 times. So if it is, let's say, if I'm telling you that 28 nanometer technology was the technology node in 2011-12, the next technology node has to be 21 nanometer. If this is the 21 nanometer, next has to be 14 nanometer. If this is the 14 nanometer, next has to be 7 nanometer. Now you can predict which one has to be next, right? So these numbers are coming from actually this Moore's law. This was possible to reach till now because he was you can say that CEO of Intel, and he made this vision for his company, and that's why they were following and they were shrinking the technology for so many years, and they reached almost like 1 nanometer, and they are also working on FinFET. FinFET is new technology from Intel side. Is also becoming very popular. Okay, so that's all for today, right?
Sir?
Yeah. Yes.
Sir, I want to ask, sir, in that wafer, each square box or IC, is it fixed that the area is 1.5 into 1.5 mm square?
No, that's not fixed. That's not fixed. That is the minimum area they are giving from Europractice side. Europractice is saying multiple of 1.5 area you can take. You understand? So that is a minimum like money they are charging. If you are making 2 by 2 mm square, it's equivalent of 3 by 3 mm square, right? It's two areas you have taken. So they will charge accordingly. So every 1.5 by 1.5 mm square, you will be charged money.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Any other question?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. With whom I am talking with?
Sir, this is Mushfiq, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yes. So,
can you tell me your name?
Sir, I'm Mushfiq, sir, from Bangladesh.
Okay. Yes. Tell me.
Yeah, sir. It's about process variation. While manufacturing, getting the different data, is it called process variation, or getting different channel length and other?
Look, you must have heard about like BJT you have studied, right?
Yeah.
In BJT, you must have heard that beta, you know about beta, right? The
yeah.
Current.
Yeah.
So that is varying from 100 to 300, which is available mostly in our discrete component, right? So that variation is from 100 to 300. Why it is that? Because they are not able to make the doping uniform for all the discrete components.
Okay.
Right? And that's how they are changing the beta. In our case, similar thing will happen. The doping, then even getting that bird pic view, and even that overlap area. It's also moving here and there. It's all about happening using oxidation process, diffusion process. So that diffusion maybe like here and there it can go. You understand my point? So this process will create a problem because it's such a small technology. You have to be very accurate. Otherwise, it's not possible, and that accuracy is not possible to achieve.
Got it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other
Good
question?
morning. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, who is there?
Sir, Meghwan.
Okay, Meghwan.
Sir, process variations happen on the same chip also, same wafer also, sir.
Same wafer we are talking about. We are talking about same wafer, but it has a various places are there. You could see. On wafer, different, let's say ICs are here and there. So most probably, like in this particular area, the variation remains same in the particular area. But if you look at this particular area, the variation is not same. Here it might be slow, and here it might be fast.
Okay, sir.
Right?
Sir, one square makes one IC, or there
One
are
IC.
many? Okay.
One IC.
Okay.
Which one IC? Almost billions of transistors, or you can say billions of gates, something like that. It might be trillion also, depending on your technology. If it is 1 nanometer, I'm talking about one IC in 130 nanometer, or maybe 65 nanometer.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. This is Mushfiq again, sir. Sir, I want to ask the question, how do we identify the number of PVT corners, sir? Can you repeat that kindly?
As I already told you that like PVT process will have 5 corners generally for NMOS and PMOS, because we are not going to use resistor, capacitor, or inductor on chip, but you are going to realize resistor, capacitor, inductor using transistors. So there will be 5 corners. Voltage will have 3 corners generally, and temperature will have around 5-6 corners depending on you, right? But on top of that, some capacitors will be also there. So generally this number goes to 1225 as per I remember when I was in company. So this number is 1225. As many number of corners you are going to take, you can check your like functionality. It's up to
Okay,
you.
sir.
You can increase it also.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.